Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's pod talk. So, for what we're going to talk about today, and today's topic is all about snacking, stress eating, and those afternoon crashes. So, what we really want to get through on this session is all about the fact that snacking is not the enemy. Unconscious snacking is. And the whole theme of today, and I really want to dive into something that we almost all struggle with, and that is with snacking. And that's stress eating and also getting that afternoon crash. So my goal is not to stop you from snacking at all. It's to help you understand why it happens and how to make choices that support our energy, our mood, and our goals. So how to be more conscious with our snacking is the goal and the theme for today's call. So firstly, why do we snack? So there is three main drivers here that I just want to touch on. And snacking is normally a signal that our body needs something else, not that we're failing at our goals or failing to succeed at something. So just want to try and get us to understand what those signals and what those triggers are. So firstly is actual physical hunger. So it might be that we are just actually hungry. And it could be that we've had a really long gap between our meals. So think about, when did you have your breakfast and what time are you having your lunch, and then what time are you having your lunch versus what time are you having your dinner, and do you have really long gaps between those? That could be that your body is just hungry, which is why you go looking for a snack. Could also be that we're getting low fiber, low protein in those meals. Protein does keep us fuller. It's a drum that I will continue to keep banging, that the more protein we eat earlier in the day, the more full we will feel throughout the day, and therefore we are less likely to snack. So another thing to think about is, what do your meals look like? When are you having them? And then when we're hungry, our blood sugars dip. And again, that is another reason why we go looking for something else, because our bodies are wanting to keep that more stable blood sugar level. So that's number one. It could be that we're just hungry. The second trigger and the second driver is that we emotionally or we stress eat. So this can show up for a lot of us. And what we're doing is we are eating or reaching for that cupboard, reaching for the snacks, etc., to distract ourselves, to cope with something else that's happening over there, and potentially to soothe a feeling. And we want that food to help us feel better. And what happens here is this is our brain seeking quick comfort. So if you're feeling down or you're feeling a bit stressed and you go and grab a chocolate bar, that's your brain going, yes, I know the chocolate's going to bring me comfort. I want that now. And you get that trigger. But also the other emotion or side of things here is that we're actually can be sometimes bored, tired, overwhelmed by something. Have you ever thought about the afternoon and thinking, oh, I want to go and get a snack, because you want something to do to get yourself out the office or something like that? That's because our bodies are bored and they want something to do, so we go looking for that snack. So there are emotions here that aren't just about stress. There are other feelings at play here as well. The third driver, though, is potentially the habit and the environment in which we are in. So we're snacking because it's there. So I don't know how many of you have a biscuit tin. If you go and make a cup of tea and the biscuit tin is next to the kettle, you're going to grab a biscuit because the environment that you've set up has the biscuit tin next to the kettle. Or we eat while we're sat on the sofa in the evening watching the telly. It hits 8 o'clock and we think, oh, I want my little snack. It becomes an automatic behavior, which is actually bypassing any cues that our brain is telling us that we're hungry. So also just want to think about, what have you got set up in your environment that you could change to help with snacking? So just want you to have a bit of a reflection point there, just on that first little bit around, which of these show up for you the most? Is it the environment? Is it stress or emotional eating? Or is it that you're actually just hungry because you've got massive gaps between your meals? Just think about which one of those three does show up the most for you. And I'm going to give some practical tips as we go through, and that could be a starting point for you to look at. So the next thing I want to talk about is afternoon crashes, and these are predictable. If we are eating and our lifestyle is a certain way, they are pretty predictable, but they are also preventable as well. So just want to dive into a little bit of why this happens. So what causes us to crash in an afternoon? Firstly, it's all to do with our blood sugars, okay? So if we have a really carb heavy breakfast or a really light lunch that's quite light on all of your macros, but specifically in protein, what that's going to do is come 2 o'clock, everything's spiking, and then everything's going to come crashing back down again. And we're not giving our body the fuel to keep those blood sugars stable. The next thing could be our cortisol rhythm. So our stress hormones, as we know, spike in the morning, they dip in an afternoon. So if you've had a particularly stressful morning, or you're going through a period of things that are just a little bit stressful and your cortisol is higher in a morning, when we dip in an afternoon, that could be an even bigger dip. And then we come back out the other side, and that dip causes us to snack. It causes us to go looking for something to stabilize with that crash. So just something to think about as well is what is causing potential stress in our lives, which is causing our cortisol levels to rise and fall. Next is sleep. Big part about sleep. One poor night's sleep can increase our cravings the next day for really high energy foods, and high energy foods tend to be quite high in carb, probably a bit more fatty. So if you've ever had a really bad night's sleep and you just feel really hungry the next day, that's because our body's needing fuel to overcome that exhaustion or that to make up for that lack of sleep. So that crash again could be dependent on how much sleep you've had the night before. And then finally, another thing that causes a crash is dehydration. So water is so important for multiple things in our bodies. But mild dehydration can cause us to feel really tired, and it can also increase our hunger, which is why sometimes when you think, am I just hungry or am I actually just thirsty? Reaching for a glass of water can be a really good way of determining how hungry you are. So just a couple of things that actually are causing that crash. Now, what does that actually mean? So if we get that blood sugar crash or we get that afternoon crash, what's it actually leading to? So how does it lead us to overeat? So as I said, the brain is craving energy, and the brain wants it fast. So we go reaching for foods that are going to give us that quick fix energy. Now, most of the time, they are high sugar, high carb meals. And we want that sugar and that processed food quickly to give us that injection. So that's one reason why we potentially overeat, because they tend to be higher calorie foods, higher fat foods, can throw us off our course. Put a bit about willpower here. So willpower, I think, is a bit like motivation. It obviously ebbs and flows, but for most of us, we tend to be more motivated and have more willpower earlier in the day, and that tends to wean as the day goes on. If you've got a really busy day at work, you've had a morning full of meetings, come middle of the afternoon, you might be losing the will to live a little bit. So that willpower to stay healthy and stay on track is going to be lower. And then also finally, that emotional tiredness or that emotional fatigue, if we're feeling low or we're tired or our mood is just not where we want it to be, it can make comfort eating way more appealing. Chocolate is a big thing for that. Or if you like a takeaway, you've had a really shit day at work, you want to grab a takeaway, you want to grab a glass of wine. What that is that's an emotional response which causes us to comfort eat. So that's just why it happens and how it can lead to us overeating. Next thing I wanted to talk about is stress eating and why this actually happens. So what's actually happening when when we go through a period of stress. So stress eating fundamentally is a coping mechanism. It's a strategy for us to be able to cope. It's just not the most helpful strategy for us to have in place. So I just want to talk about a couple of reasons why. So we can go into this stress eating loop, okay? And what that essentially is meaning is that stress, short-term stress, can reduce our appetite. So we're going into that lower appetite mode. But ongoing stress, if we're stressed for a good period of time, increases that cortisol, increases our cravings for those high energy foods. And what we're doing is we're going looking for a dopamine hit. So we're going for that quick release, that quick, oh yeah, that feels good, which actually is just reinforcing the habit, which causes us to potentially feel guilty, feel frustrated by it, which then leads to more stress. And guess what? We're going back around the loop again. So what we really want to do is try and break this loop, break us wanting to go, being in that stressful situation, going looking for those foods, quick fix, feeling guilty, blah, 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 back around again. So what we need to do in order to break this is start with awareness, start of understanding why this is happening, what's causing this to happen for you. And a couple of questions here that I want you just to think about as, again, as a bit of a reflection is, if you are a stress eater, I want you to think about what emotion is it that you're trying to soothe by eating. Okay. And then thinking then about what is it you actually need right now? Is it food? Are you hungry? Or is it something else you need to fill that gap? And then finally, is again, similarly, is this a physical hunger? How long ago did I have my lunch? Am I actually hungry? Or am I emotionally hungry? And therefore, that's why I'm going for it. And just being aware of yourself in this loop can help you break it and put strategies in place in order to be able to fix it. So just something to be aware of next time you feel like you're in this loop. Ask yourself a couple of these questions and really just try and dig into this a little bit deeper. Now, so this leads me nicely on to what those practical strategies could be. So just a couple here for you to consider. And actually, as I always say, small, consistent habits is going to outweigh perfection, motivation, willpower every day of the week. So thinking small, what can you do to break that cycle? And here's a couple of strategies that might help. So firstly, no surprises here on this one, is trying to build your balanced meal throughout the day. And what I want you to think about is having a 3-part plate. One, we want protein. Okay, we know this keeps us full. So a percentage of your plate has got to be protein. So let's aim for a quarter of your plate is protein. Next up, we've got fiber and veggies. These are keeping your energy stable. And veggies can be done in really high volume foods, okay? So you can chuck those on your plate, spinach, tomatoes, and all of these vegetables are really, really good. And we should be aiming for half our plate at all times to be half veggies. And then finally, the other quarter of your plate should be smart carbs. And what I mean by that is we want to be thinking about what are starchy carbs. They're your grains. So your pastas, your rice, etc. But also you've got fibrous carbs, so which are more like pulses and beans. Quite a lot of veggies fall into that group as well. So just trying to think about your balance between starchy and fibrous carbs. Both serve a purpose, but being tactical and smart about what's on your plate. And healthy fats. We need fats in our diet, but what percentage of your plate is fats? And we need these for sustained fuel. So both carbs and fats are required as energy. So we need to make sure that they are on our plate, but in a balanced way. And if we have balanced meals like this, we're going to be reducing those cravings before they even have a chance to rear their head. Okay. Next up, we have creating a snack strategy. So as I said at the beginning, I'm not here to tell you to stop snacking. But what I want you to think about is what you are actually snacking on and how you can potentially be more strategic in those snacks. So instead of trying to avoid them, plan them in. Know what they are. Have your 3 or 4 go-to snacks that you know are easy to make. They're there. You don't have to think about it. You can just go and grab them depending on what you need to fill that void. So a couple of guidelines for you to think about is thinking about protein and fiber. Again, are 2 key things. So yogurt and berries, hummus and veggies, fruit and nuts. Okay. Some classic combinations there, but they work because they are protein and they've got fiber in them. Keep the snacks you want to eat visible and easy to get, and hide anything that you might have that might be a trigger food for you. So I previously had a friend, and also she was a client for a little while, who during the 14-day challenge I ran, put all of her chocolate in the boot of her car so that she couldn't see it. Now that felt like a bit of an extreme, and it was quite funny at the time, but the point is there that if you can't see it, you can't eat it. So for her, it was about moving it into a completely different environment and making healthier snacks visible in her kitchen, so that if she wanted something, it was the easy ones that she went to grab. And eat your snacks intentionally. So if you want a snack, go and eat it as if it's like another meal. Don't sit mindlessly eating it at your desk while you're multitasking. You're getting no fulfillment from that because you're just mindlessly doing it. Be intentional with it. Have them there, take yourself away, go and have 5 minutes to eat it. So, number 2 strategy, creating that snack strategy. Number 3 is about taking a bit of a pause and a reset before you stress eat. So, before you just go and grab some food, take 5 minutes to do one of these other things to then see whether you're actually really hungry or whether you're just going mindlessly to go and eat something. So, can you go and, as I said earlier, go and grab a glass of water and see how you feel after 5 minutes of having that water? You might just be thirsty. Can you go and quick whiz around the office, go step outside, do a lap of the floor, get moving, and then you'll realize, are you actually hungry, or are you just bored in the situation that you're in, and therefore you just need a quick 5-minute reset before you then go and get the snack. Couple of extra ones if these work for you: stretching and box breathing. Now, if those are things that work for you already, then this is definitely the time and the place to do them. And with all of these, if after 5 minutes you're still thinking, I want that snack, go and eat it. But eat it mindfully and have it without any guilt. Don't let yourself get into that guilt cycle, because you've given yourself that 5-minute reset and you still want it, so go and eat it. Okay. Number 4 is about beating that afternoon crash. So a couple of little pointers: add extra protein into your breakfast. The more protein you get in first thing in the day, the fuller you are going to feel for the rest of the day. Eat your lunch before you're at the point of feeling absolutely starving. So if you're having your breakfast at 9 o'clock, you're going to be getting hungry by 1 o'clock. So have your lunch then. Don't wait till 2 o'clock and then you're starving and you're likely to then go and eat a little bit extra. Next one I've touched on a few times: water. Get the hydration in early days. Get it in early in the day, and then you can kind of ride that wave throughout the rest of the day. 2 to 5 minute break every hour is beneficial in multiple ways, but for this particular talk, if you could, as I said on the previous slide, just get up and move, it will show you whether or not you're actually hungry or whether you just need to move. And also, finally, just trying to not rely on caffeine too late into the day. This impacts our sleep, which impacts our stress, etc., and it all becomes part of that vicious cycle. So just a couple of pointers to how you can beat that afternoon crash. Number 5, final one, is that we want to build an environment that supports us. So keep snacks at eye level, the supportive ones. The ones that you can just know you can grab and you're not going to feel guilty about eating. Next, putting those trigger foods out of sight. Put them at the back of the cupboard. Put them in the high cupboard so you can't reach them. If they're not in your eye line, when you go to make your cup of tea, you're not going to eat them, because then you have to go and physically stand on a chair to go and grab them. And if you're doing that mindful, you want it, don't be guilty about it. If you can pre-portion your snacks in advance, if you're prepping something in bulk, cut it up into the portions, even package them up into individual wrappers if you can, just so that you know that that is one portion, you can grab it and go. Again, water and reminders to take those breaks. Okay, so it's all just about having that environment that is going to help us not get bored, is going to keep our stress levels controlled, and therefore we're less likely to go hunting for those high energy quick fix snacks. Okay, so the environment you're in is going to beat the motivation any day. And just a couple, these are really small things that you can do and you can do quite easily. So I've talked about identity before, and just my last little bit that I wanted to touch on was around changing our language and changing the way we are associating with snacks. So, for example, again, thinking about identity. I'm bad at snacking. Negative. I'm learning from my patterns is a much more positive outlook. And we want to think about snacking as it's not a flaw. As I said, I'm not here to tell you to stop snacking, but learn from your patterns. If you know you go to make a cup of tea at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you're grabbing that biscuit, what can you change about the environment and learn from it? That is a much more positive outlook than I'm bad at snacking. Next one, I need more willpower versus I need more fuel. Okay, it's not about willpower. It's not about motivation. That's not going to carry you through. If your body is underfueled, you will go looking for that snack because you are hungry. So fueling better is a much, again, positive outlook than I need more motivation or I need a better willpower, etc. So fuel is key. We can avoid the energy crashes, but they're not solved by being more disciplined. It's more about what we're putting into our bodies is way more powerful. Next up, we have I blew it. Again, very negative outlook on us and negative on ourselves. More positive, better choice, isn't it? Next choice matters. Better choices matter. Okay. One snack is not going to define your whole day, and it does not impact or throw your whole progress off track. Okay. But if you think you blew it, you're likely to go and eat more. So be more conscious and more mindful and think about that next choice. What are you picking next? After you've eaten that chocolate bar, what are you doing now? Okay. Think about it. Think about those strategies. And final one is I shouldn't eat when stressed. Again, negative. More positive, I can choose how I cope. So if you know you are stressed or you are a stress eater, think about food and everything else within our lives and our health that can help with that and be tools in order to support it. So food is one thing, movement, sleep, stress, all these other pointers are also really, really important. So choose how you are coping when you're stressed, not that you shouldn't eat. Okay, so couple of just identity things to think about there, because it's something I like to bring in. And just think about how you want to perceive yourself moving forward. You're way more likely to get the outcome you want when you think about it as being part of you rather than it just being a physical outcome. Okay, guys, and just to wrap this up, very quick recap. The key takeaway I really want you to think about is what is one small change you can start today, and some action points just to think about. Identifying if you have a trigger. Are you hungry? Are you stressed? Is it just a habit? Okay, so what is it that's really causing snacking or potential stress eating? Okay, next actionable step is making an upgrade to your meals. What can you add? Extra protein in breakfast, extra protein in lunch. Okay, or what are your snacks? Be intentional with what you're snacking on. Finally, can you add a 2-minute break every hour into your afternoon routine so that you're forcing your body to adjust, move around, do something else, and then assess whether or not you're still hungry? Do you need that snack? And just the final thing I want to touch on is that environment. What is the environment that you've set yourself up in? Can you move some of the snacks out of eye line? Can you move the cookie jar somewhere else? What is the environment? Where's your nearest water station? What does that look like? That's really going to help you with snacking moving forward. And just a final closing remark from me is I'm not here to tell you to eliminate snacking at all. Just find the way that your body needs you to support it. And if you do really need that snack, eat it, be intentional with it, fuel your body in the right way, support any stresses that you have by finding other things that don't necessarily involve eating, and build habits around you, whether that's environmental or mental. So finding ways for you to be able to cope with stress, and snack with intention is the best thing I can say. So hope you found that all really useful today. Slightly longer one. And I look forward for you listening up for the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye.